Hello, and welcome to the fourth podcast for the Pit of Ultimate Dark Shadows. This is Daryl War, of course, and I wanted to express to you, you probably were wondering at the beginning of the other podcast, or the first one, if you hadn't seen the profile I had at the fanfiction site. I had used Detta as an alternate name that represented something, and it's probably still there. You can just go look it up, but I had represented that name to do fan fiction because I felt like it wasn't quite my work. But then when I saw how engrossed I got in this project, I thought, okay, this is mine. I've just got to put my original pen name on it and just go with it. I've lost 20 pounds from lack of interest in food. I have lost almost a month of sleep between now and the beginning of October. And if you're worried about that, don't contact me and tell me, get some sleep, eat some food. Really, I think in my theorizing of this, I really need the positive feedback. I really need to know that somebody's enjoying this. I think that is really going to be the key and the crux of getting me to finally sleep. It's a theory. I think it's an accurate theory. So if you really care about that and me not driving my spouse crazy, then just do it. It shouldn't be too hard. That's what I'm trying to teach you guys anyway. So just give me a little positive feedback. All right. So let's look at what I've written for this intro. Now, I'm not sure how brief I can make this intro because this episode is where the story finally seems to stop skipping so much and really take off for its own adventure. So this is probably going to be a long one, and the podcast is probably going to be really long, but I mean, it's so much fun. There's not going to be a whole lot of teaching and whatever. It's going to be so much fun, really. This episode, it's like taking a jet ski filled with lit fireworks and crashing it into the bottom of Widow's Hill for a dazzling display of colorful attributes. Really. And yes, though fun, it's been serious hard work. Now, I'm not generally a fan fiction writer at all. I know there was a time where somebody was asking me, oh, you're leaving the fan fiction world? And it's like, I don't do fan fiction normally. I just wanted to see this place worked out, like, badly. And if you listen to my other podcasts and were able to endure all my weirdness, you know why. You want to see this place nice. You want to see these characters working together. For some reason, there's got to be another way. There's just got to be. It would just be so wonderful to see, just to see them all somewhat content, but still kind of spooky. Still kind of Addams Family, Munsters, Clue, Ghost and Mrs. Muir, all that beautiful stuff, Wouldn't it be great? And that's what I'm trying to do here. And if anybody else has already done it, hey, let me know. It'd be great. I'd love to see it. But I can feel the frustration of many when a special favorite actor, character, whatever, gets completely maligned, and you just grab that pen and say, oh, no, you don't. However, it is hard to feel too weird taking a show that used storylines from so many other previous storylines and making it your own. As you all may know, Dark Shadows borrowed from many different Gothic books of old. So, that being said, I do want to kind of speed read through, or I won't say what the storylines were, but I'll just say the books. So, Jane Eyre. That was one that I remember where in an interview when Dan Curtis was mentioning this to somebody else who was helping him get the project started of Dark Shadows, he described a story and the person said, that sounds like Jane Eyre. And I guess Curtis said, what's Jane Eyre? And I was like, whoa, that tripped me out. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. The Crucible by Arthur Miller. The Cask of Amontillado, obviously by Edgar Allan Poe. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Edgar Allan Poe, The Premature Burial, which in my version we skip. It's just nasty. And I have read a lot of Poe, so, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. Whoa, okay. Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. Of course, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And I'm gonna stop there because that's pretty much as far as I'm likely going to go with this series. I think that's why this new combination makes more sense to me now than when I started. Also, by the way, If you're wondering with what Wadsworth was talking about with Victoria Winter's relationship to Elizabeth Stoddard in episode 2, this was inspired by what some of the final intentions were for the show. Also, this is a major treat if you can still find it online. There's this tiny little video. I can't find it now, but it's of Joan Bennett, trying not to laugh from what I saw, saying that she was talking to us as Elizabeth Stoddard, and then she said, "Yes, Victoria Winters is my daughter." And then you can hear some very light chuckling from someone off screen. If anyone can find this video for me again, I'd love it. So that really helped me with my format for this story. If you care, we're going to find out more about that, and I really love how it's planned out and who I've picked for the father, at least the old classic movie actor who will represent him. I think he matches our Aunt Elizabeth entirely. Heaven knows she deserves him. Really. My concept of him is very romantic, I trust. Now, on to the other details. All right. Sam Evans, who is also affectionately known as Pop by his daughter Maggie Evans, is here. Sam is a talented artist who does like his booze. Also, he knew how to make use of his undisguised love for alcohol when Maggie was overcoming the trauma of her kidnapping. Sam Evans, and I am not really sure right now, I think it was the sheriff. It might have been Dr. Woodard. I'm pretty sure it was Sheriff Patterson. Anyway, Sam Evans and presumably Sheriff Patterson decided to make a scene at the local tavern. Everybody knows that's the Blue Whale. Where Sam would have a few drinks, but act like he'd had a whole keg or something. Then he plays the drunken part and goes on that Maggie would remember the identity of her kidnapper, or that she already knew the identity of her kidnapper, to which the two involved in the kidnapping find out and shake in their collective coats. Of course, Sam's companion plays his role by pretending to try and shush him so he doesn't spill the beans. I dug that Sam was able to play that out. To me, it showed recognizing your flaws and using them to your own advantage. Also, in the original Dark Shadows program, Sam Evans helps Barnabas with a painting, and it pretty much plays out as in my story, minus the deja vu and vague recognition of the thing between the two men. Thing is, when Angelique/Cassandra gets her dose of Dorian Gray voodoo, she does find Sam and demand he stop his work. When he says he can't, she does something that's so nasty to him that honestly, I ain't even going there. Really. Of course, that and his eventual death was when I grabbed my pen and said, "Oh no, you don't." As I'm sure has been echoed ad nauseum across the world when it comes to this kind of writing. This episode of mine really took shape and thrust when I finally gave in and watched the television version, as badly clipped as what still exists of it online now, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. I'd seen the film, but never gave the TV show a chance. Wow. I didn't know what I was in for. I watched all the episodes and then played some Tetris while listening to them and sort of rewatching to make sure I got all the details down. The ghost of a sea captain. And instead of England, as in the film and presumably book, if you can find a copy, the TV version was set in a little township called Schooner Bay in the state of, wait for it, Maine. Then it was all over. Really, there was no way I couldn't find good use for him. Now, when I've asked for positive feedback for this, maybe a few of you have been shy, but really, if any of you know anyone who loved that show, The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, and I know there are devoted fans whose love has likely fizzled a bit in recent years, I am ready to rekindle it here. So please let them know. In fact, in episode 12, they will be super delighted how dramatic I made that guy. Captain Daniel Craig. Ooh, he's dynamite. He really lays out the morality play in episode 12. I am positive they will love hearing him dish it out in all his salty dog appeal. I really do. So find those people for me. I'm looking for them. Captain Daniel Craig is likely a character that has helped this town in my audio drama the most. He was played by Edward Mulhare, who also was a staunch Brit in the old 80s series Knight Rider, if you can believe it. However, as much as I remember liking him in that, I think Captain Greg is where he really has shined for me. Now, you won't hear him in this episode, but you know how in those episodes of The Ghost and Mrs. Muir where you know he's there and Mrs. Muir knows he's there, but no one else does? What I really like about this episode is when Tony and Carolyn meet her, Mrs. Muir, she keeps whispering random stuff under her breath. I thought it logical when I originally wrote the story, but when I listen to it now, I find it hilarious. It's just so funny. Because we know what she's doing, and we get a first-hand glimpse of what that experience is like for everyone else who can't see or hear the captain. I also really like Carolyn and Tony here so much.
Because not only are they dating here, they're also working as a team, and they do some stuff here that, again, is getting the dominoes falling and making things better, with combined help, of course.
Tony Peterson was digging big time on Miss Stoddard. But of course, Cassandra/Angelique foiled that in the original show. So, what would it be like if that foiling got foiled on its own? And this was the part of the story where my adoration for Tony and Carolyn's romance just sunk its canines into me. Although, I've often visualized them in a first and second base innocence, really. So far. I really think they contrast each other so well. She's light and blonde. He's dark and somewhat olive, if I'm describing that right. I know there is a convention video I've seen where the two actors play out re-meeting, and it was written by Jerry Lacey. Dang. That man just marvels me to no end. Especially when you see him play Reverend Trask with the flies buzzing around. He just pulls it off so well. Of course, the gumshoe just gets me. And I'm sorry, I didn't go to Bogart first for doing his voice. I just went with a deeper intonation. On to the encounter, this is fun, with Cassandra and Barnabas as her painting is about to be scourged. Much of this scene is original. But since the actor who played Wadsworth also played another role, I've hinted perhaps a combination lays in store. I know many people now are very used to blatant displays of comedy, but I just like to slyly hint at these things. Besides, I know later on some of the actors to the Rocky Horror film showed a bit of embarrassment in later years, so a wink's as good as a nod in this case. The scene was so hard to do. When I wrote it, again, it was just kind of logical to make these references. And again, the text does not do it justice. Although I've heard a little bit to the contrary. When I made my attempt to perform this scene, where Cassandra gets her dose of Dorian Gray justice, it almost took 24 hours. I was literally falling on the floor. I just could not do it with the voices one after the other. And I have never been to a public feature of Rocky Horror. Yes, I know. You fans out there, go ahead and say it about me, whatever. Either way, I'm more into the first half of the film. The rest just seems to bore me. Still, I never ever thought I'd ever have to sing that song. My original recordings just had clips from the film. I realized at this point, since Wadsworth is down in the cellar or dungeon or wherever the lab or Barnabas's coffin was, I knew I'd have to get that echo down. It was really hard. It really was. I was likely awake for far too long. So yes, fun, but I felt like I was going to die laughing before I could get it done. I mean, really, you guys. Really, it was hard. Also, if anyone knows the Dark Shadows blooper reel, or just the scene, remember when Cassandra mentions the portrait is missing and Jonathan Frid kind of flubs the line in this way where he says, "Oh, how fortunate, how unfortunate," and then just lets it go? Well, I decided in my revision to let Barnabas have that flub, in all confidence, and I dispensed with the attempt to correct it. Yeah, you just gotta love it. The tension is so much better now with Wadsworth down in the cellar singing his heart out while Barnabas is even more confident in this scheme, and Cassandra is just plain weirded out and having trouble doing her doe-eyed expression of pretending everything's okay. Really, it's so funny. So funny. However, after doing that, you do realize with this rewrite, it may be, no promises, but it may be possible to add the time warp song. Right? Right? I mean, Barnabas has to get to 1897, right? You guys with me on this here? To find our hirsute Quentin? Yes? I've been doing more recording and editing and reading aloud than writing these days, but if you enjoy this show and you want that time warp song, I've already got the karaoke version, so I'm ready for this. Do, please, contact me. Give me what you laughed at or any highlight you liked, and I will do my best to get that scene to you. I really will, if you want it. With the way the song plays out, I really have good ideas of who will be singing which parts, and what will happen in the end. Obviously, Barnabas is going to think they're all nuts, and say so at the wrong moment. So, with that said, if you really want to hear it, if you think that I've done the caricature well enough that I will be able to perform it, get a pencil or type it down. XOISCYTHE@hotmail.com. No promises, but I will do my best if I keep on getting the good news. Also, I do try to get the characters down, but like most of you, that black wig on Cassandra was just something else. So, I did give Barnabas a funny line that doesn't really fit him, but I just can't let it go. Maybe he learned it from Maggie or something, but who cares? It's just too good to let go when Cassandra shuffles out the door in horror. I also feel like I might have got slightly closer to doing a better impression of him while he snarls at her. You be the judge. I'm going to keep working on that. Anyway, I'm sorry that this took so long, but really, when it comes down to brass tacks, this episode 4 is where my story truly begins. It really is. Everything else is catch-up time. This is where it starts. This is where it's good. And for any of those fans out there wondering who he's going to pick, by this point it should be really obvious. Keep coming. It's been hard work, but we're going to find out who that girl was. We're really going to find out who that girl was. And I think she's going to be very pleased that we cared enough to find out who she is. Enjoy.